So this week there was a horrific shooting at a Madden tournament in Jacksonville, Florida. Fox News now thinks they have a scapegoat to deflect the conversation from gun reform. So let's see what they call for instead of gun reform.
Sensible advice there, but I think we can go further. I mean, look, when we think of other risks to children and their health, for example, smoking, we actually take action and we ban those things for young people. And I think that there's a role for that for things like overuse of smartphones and games. We can step in and say this is not supposed to be how kids should be raised,
and we can do
something
right
about it.
You know, I think people used to smoke cigarettes at 13, 14 years old. Now you've got people using this stuff all day long at those young ages. And I think there's going to come a time in our society when we look back and say, can you believe we let kids play those games for hours and hours in their cars, in their bedrooms, in the basement? Something we really need to wake up to. Thank you very much.
So don't implement wildly popular, basic, pretty vanilla gun reforms. Instead, what you should do is ban, just like we banned smoking for kids, ban smartphones and games. Now, if I'm being kind to them, they said the overuse of smartphones and games, so I don't know how one would regulate that. What are you going to do? Kids are only allowed to use a smartphone for 1 hour a day. They're only allowed to play 1 hour of video games per day. You guys claim to be the small government people. That is gigantic government that is regulating personal lives and doing the jobs that parents are supposed to do. See, this is how you know Fox News is full of shit, because when they talk about the guns issue, they will immediately pull out the card of, oh, but the reason why we can't do anything against the guns at all, even mild reforms, is because we care about freedom. We need, what are you going to do? You're going to hurt the law-abiding citizens because of the actions of some fringe lunatics? I mean, that seems wrong. Yeah, but you can't say you are all about freedom and then say, oh, we should ban kids from playing video games and using smartphones. And by the way, to make a similar argument here, what percentage of kids that use video games and smartphones are going to do a mass shooting? I'm guessing that is a really, 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 really low percentage. Insanely low percentage. And by the way, there's no correlation there. I mean, we've covered the studies on the show. There have been countless studies on this because people thought there's going to be a link between video game use and shootings. That's just not true. That's not true. There is no link between video games and shooting. It turns out kids know, like, oh, shooting somebody in a fucking virtual sense on a screen is quite different than murdering somebody in real life. Yeah, no shit. No shit. You know, I played Tiger Woods PGA Tour for years on different consoles. I never thought I'd actually win the Masters. I may have won it in a video game. That doesn't mean I'm one of the top golfers in the world in real life. So they're so sloppy in their approach. I just wish, like, could you guys just be a little more consistent? That's all I'm asking for. That if you're going to make the freedom argument in the context of gun anarchy, no regulations on guns because freedom, woo! Then also at least try to stay at least a little bit true to that argument in other realms. Like, oh, freedom for guns, but you know what? These smartphones and video games, ban them for kids. Don't allow that. Fucking ruining childhoods is what they want to do. They're so full of shit, man. They're so full of shit. And let me be clear about something. Mildly regulating guns, like doing universal background checks and having a process to go through where somebody proves that they're able to use it, like having a test, treating it more like cars. I don't think that takes away people's freedom. If you can go through the steps and you can legally get a gun, okay. But, and that's all people really ask for is, hey, certain guns, high-capacity magazines, that shouldn't be allowed, and we should also make it tougher to get a gun for law-abiding citizens so that, you know, you disincentivize a lot of people who would commit the crimes from getting it legally, and then it's harder to get it on the black market, so you tick down the overall statistics for gun violence. That doesn't even infringe on freedom. Whereas what they're calling for absolutely does. To effectively ban video games for a lot of people. And they have, I think they have, like, preferred ages and stuff written on the games, if I'm not mistaken. At least they used to. I don't know if they still do. They probably do. But what's funny is that in so many other areas, they pull out the argument of, oh, why would you let the government do what parents are supposed to do? Like, that's the role of parents to teach their kids right and wrong in many instances. But when it comes to video games and smartphones, we should really regulate that. So to recap, they don't want the government making laws in any way that impacts your economic livelihood and your well-being. So they're not for, regulations in the marketplace that prevent like abusive safety standards. They don't want to have in place union laws that help workers. They're not in favor of government there because that's big government. But do they want government banning people from using smartphones and video games? Yes, and that's not big government. It's so ridiculous, I don't even know why I'm commenting on it.